So what's going on, guys? DIY Dan here again, and this is an off-subject video. We actually took a 3-day park hopper pass trip to Disneyland California Adventures, and I'm going to show you how we got the most bang for our buck out of this trip. So keep in mind, guys, I've got a lot of information in this video, and I'm moving through it as fast as I can. Some of this stuff might work for you, and some of it might not, because every family or individual is different. What I can guarantee you, if this is your first trip to Disneyland, you will find something in this video helpful for your trip. So let's get to it. So there was 4 of us that went on this trip, me, my wife, and my 2 teenage daughters, and we took a 6-hour drive from Phoenix, Arizona to Disneyland California Adventures in Anaheim, California. Now we did this trip as a package deal through Costco with the hotel included. Now this was not the Disneyland hotel itself, but one of the hotels that is a partner with Disneyland, and it was less than 2 miles away. We actually bought the 3-day bus pass that shuttled us to and from the park, and I'm going to go over the likes and dislikes about that. We did purchase the Genie Plus Lightning Lane Pass for all 3 days as well. I'm going to go over the benefits of that, what we liked about it, what we didn't like about it, and how to make the most use of it. My wife also purchased the magic bands for this trip. I'm going to go over whether that was worth the money we spent on those or not. And I'm going to go over some other tips to help you make the most of your trip and save you some money in the process. We actually learned something on this trip that we had not figured out in the past trips we had done that probably easily saved us $100 per day in the park. And while I'm going over all this information, instead of looking at my ugly face, I'm going to be showing you full video footage of the rides, Star Wars, Rise of the Resistance, and the Cars ride. I also have quite a bit of footage from MILLINEUM, FALCON, SMUGGLERS Run, and several other rides in the park as well. So if you are just here to see the video footage of SMUGGLERS Run, Rise of the Resistance, or the Cars ride, here's the times of those, so you can bypass the other stuff that you really don't need to see, so I don't waste your time. So one of the main things we figured out that we didn't take advantage of in the past is that they do allow you to bring food and drink into the park. So what we ended up doing is packing a small backpack with some small amounts of food, drink, and snacks, along with some other necessities. Now, if you're going in colder weather, I do recommend layering with a bunch of lighter sweaters versus a big heavy jacket. And the reason I say that is, depending on the temperature and how you're feeling, you can strip one of the small underlayers and put it in a backpack. Or you could tie a light jacket around your waist, whereas if you've got a big bulky jacket, that's not really a possibility. Also, chapstick's a good idea, and then I highly recommend getting a portable phone charger to take with you. We use the Disneyland app so much during the day that it was killing the battery on my wife's phone quite a bit. Now, if Splash Mountain is in your plans, you might also want to bring some rain ponchos and some flip-flops to wear during that process, especially if it's colder weather. My clothes actually dried out pretty quick, but walking around in squishy shoes for the next couple hours kind of sucked.
Oh, shit! Oh, that's cold! Oh. Mother!
We also took a much larger backpack and we loaded that with multiple waters and sodas, snacks, and sandwiches to cover 1 meal a day in the park, because we were there from 8 o'clock in the morning till 8 o'clock at night, and that basically involves 2 meals. By eliminating having to pay for one of those meals, it saved us $50 to $60 each day. Then if you add in the money you're saving on waters and sodas during the day, you're easily over $100 per day in savings just by taking that extra backpack. Now you're probably saying to yourself, with all that crap in there, I don't want to haul that thing around all day. And I absolutely 100% agree with you. And that's why we ended up purchasing a locker rental for the day. For a large locker that would hold this big backpack full of crap was only $10 for the day. So the other thing you might be thinking is, I don't want to be wasting my time having to get a locker instead of getting out to the rides. But they actually open the parks up a half an hour before they actually do the rope drop, and you can get to any of the rides anyways. So what I did is I actually went and put the backpack in the locker and had my wife and kids go stand at the rope drop. And after putting the backpack in the locker, I still had plenty of time to go meet up with them before the rope was dropped and we could get to any rides anyways. Now, as far as bringing backpacks on the rides, you can do that on every ride in Disneyland and in California Adventures. So what I would do for the more aggressive rides with the backpack is I would take the backpack off and put one of my legs through one of the shoulder straps on the backpack and then squeeze it between my legs. And I never once had an issue with that backpack going anywhere while I would do that. And that was on even aggressive rides like Incredicoaster that goes upside down, and on Guardians of the Galaxy, which has some very aggressive lifts and drops involved in the ride. And just on a little side note, guys, Guardians of the Galaxy is an absolute must-do while you're at the park. We actually ended up going over the 3 days we were there. We went on it 4 times. It is by far a lot better ride and more exciting than it was when it was Tower of Terror. So right here is some footage of Tom Sawyer's Island, and this is actually a really cool place. Back in the day when my kids were younger, we actually played hide and seek and tag on this island, which was an absolute blast. They have these wooden deck ferries that take you to and from the island. The cool part about this is if you do have younger kids and you need to take a little break because your feet are killing you from walking like 20 miles in the last day or two. Or in my wife and I's case, we've got 2 teenage daughters that are sitting there bickering back and forth at each other, and we need a little break to regain our sanity. To a certain extent, you can let your kids kind of roam free on this island because unless they get back on that deck boat, there's no other way to get off the island. It's also a good place to have lunch if you brought your own sandwiches because it tends to be a little less crowded than the mainland of Disneyland, and you should be able to find plenty of shaded areas to sit under while you eat. So right here is the Mark Twain riverboat. This is actually a fully operational steamboat that goes around Tom Sawyer Island. So I actually got a bigger kick out of this than my wife or my kids riding around on it because I was able to talk to the engineer that operates the engine, and he was explaining how the steam engine actually works while we were going around Tom Sawyer Island. The cool part about this is you don't really have to wait in line for it. If you just pay attention as to when it's coming to dock and start heading that way, there's plenty other attractions and things to do in that area, and you should be able to see when it is going to dock. This is another really good option if you just need to take a break from walking for a while. However, there's not very many places to sit on the Mark Twain. So now I'm going to get into the Genie Plus Pass, what we liked about it, what we didn't like about it, how to best use it, and some other things you might not know about it. Now, my wife did purchase the Magic Bands. So I will say these Magic Bands did come in handy. They're waterproof. They're always on your wrist, so you don't have to worry about pulling out your phone in order to scan yourself in the lightning lane for every ride. So in order to use the lightning lane, you either have to pull your phone out at the beginning of the lane and have one of the attendants scan you in. However, with the wristband, they have little pedestals that have a little scanner on them, so you just walk by them, throw your wristband by that pedestal, and you can go right through. I can't tell you how many times we were in line and people would be messing with their phones, trying to get their lightning lane to come up on their phones so they could be scanned in, and we just bypassed right through them with the wristband. So I do think these bands saved us some time and some frustration. However, if I would have known the cost of them before, when my wife bought them, I might have told her not to get them. We do have the benefit. We will be able to use these in the future when we go back to Disneyland. So these bands were $45 a piece. Now we were there for 3 days. If you were going for a single day, it's kind of hard to justify that. I definitely think you need at least 2 days to fully get use out of both parks. We did 3 days, and on the 3rd day, we pretty much just went back and were able to take our time and do our favorite rides one last time. So when it's all said and done, you'll just have to judge whether that much money is worth the convenience of having it. Alright guys, so we got the Disney app, which I highly recommend getting. A couple things on this. If you actually go to that icon right there, it shows you the map. This shows you the wait times of the rides. Now we are actually at home now after going, but I can still show you the wait times. Star Wars Rise of the Resistance was closed quite a bit. They had issues with the ride. That and the Cars ride were the 2 most problematic rides that were at the parks. Smuggler's Run didn't really have many issues with the ride. We were always able to get to that when we wanted to. So if we were to pick that ride, in order to use the Genie Pass, all you would do is click on that ride, click on that, go down a little bit, and it says Lightning Lane. You're going to go ahead and click on that. So that's going to give you a time frame when you can use the Genie Plus. You would click on that, and then because we're home and we're not at Disneyland anymore, obviously it's not going to do it. but it would give you a list of the tickets that are available that you have purchased, and you would have to click on those or press select all and then continue, and that would set that time frame. So let's say you set your Genie Plus pass for 9:10 at Smuggler's Run. You have an hour to use that pass. You can also get into that like 5 minutes before or 15 minutes after, and you will still be able to use your Genie Pass on that ride. However, once you set a Genie Plus pass for a ride, you cannot go in to another ride and set a Genie Plus on another ride until either the time has elapsed on that Genie Plus that you set, or you have used the Genie Plus on that other ride before you can set the time on a new ride. So in other words, you can only use one Genie Plus at a time. You cannot double stack them. Now there are a couple exceptions to this rule. The one is sometimes on the more popular rides, when you go to schedule a lightning lane, it is like 3 or 4 hours in the future. You can go in and schedule another Genie Plus 2 hours after the time that you scheduled the first ride, even though you have not gone on the ride yet. So every 2 hours you can schedule a Genie Plus ride, even if you have not used the previous one you had booked. Another thing to keep in mind is as soon as you use your Genie Plus to go into the lightning lane and you scan it on the pedestal, you can immediately go in and book another Genie Plus ride, and that way you don't waste any time between those rides. Now another exception to this rule, which I'm going to tell you about right now, actually happened to us. So we were just strapping in on Space Mountain when the ride went down. They actually had to pull us into a maintenance room and get us to get off the coaster. Because it broke down while we were on the coaster itself, they actually gave us an additional Genie Plus pass plus the ones we already had on our app. And we were able to double stack those together, so we were able to set the times for 2 different rides. And that is the only time we were able to do that the entire time we were at the park. Now keep in mind, the only reason we got that extra pass is because we were on the ride and not standing in line. They did not do it for the people that had been standing in line. So another thing that I've heard that I haven't actually done myself is if you see a ride down in your app, go in and select that ride and try and get a lightning lane for it. And if that ride is not up and running by the time that your lightning lane expires, you will get an additional lightning lane pass for any ride, irregardless of whether you've used your Genie Pass for that ride previously that day. With the exception of Rise of the Resistance, the Cars ride, Peter Pan, and Spider-Man. The other critical thing to know when dealing with the Genie Plus pass is that they do not work on every ride in the park. We were unaware of this, and this actually cost us the first day because we wanted to use it on Rise of the Resistance, and it is not available. The only way you can get a Genie Plus for that ride is to purchase it separately, and it was $25 per person, in addition to what you already paid for the regular Genie Plus. Now this is also the same with the Cars ride. It was an additional $15 per individual if you wanted to get a Genie Plus for that. And I believe it was for Peter Pan as well, and there might be others, we just didn't realize it. So it's definitely worth checking into before setting your plan for that day at the park. Another thing worth mentioning, guys, is there's a couple rides that are definitely worth doing at night, and that is the Big Thunder Railroad. Also, the Cars ride at night is really cool, along with the Incredicoaster and the Matterhorn. Another very critical thing to know about the Genie Plus is that you can only use it one time for each ride per day. So you cannot use it twice for Big Thunder Railroad, for example, in the same day. Now that being said, it's very critical how you schedule the first part of your day as soon as you get into the park, because there is definitely rides that get a lot busier than others, and you want to hit those first thing. In Disneyland, if you want to do Rise of the Resistance, I highly recommend as soon as the rope drops, you head that direction. And then as soon as you get out of that, hit Smuggler's Run, and then possibly the Big Thunder Railroad are probably the biggest rides in Disneyland. And in California Adventures, I would immediately head to the Cars ride, and then after that, try and hit Guardians of the Galaxy before it gets too crowded. The parks usually don't get extremely busy until after 10 o'clock, so you want to get in as many rides as you can without using your Lightning Pass before it gets too busy. And that way you've got your lightning lane available later in the day when the rides are really crowded and you don't want to have to wait for that hour and a half for a ride. The other thing to keep in mind with the Genie Plus is you are not going to the immediate front row of the ride. You're still going to have probably a 10 to 15 minute wait when it's busy to get on the ride. And the reason I say that is if there's only a 25-minute wait for a ride, I don't recommend using your Genie Pass at that time. Try and wait to use your Genie Pass when the wait times are upwards of 45 minutes, so you're not basically wasting your Genie Pass for the day on that ride. One other quick note is there is some rides that don't even allow the Genie Plus or don't have a Fast Pass lane. So that's something you definitely want to check into when you're planning out your day as well. A lot of the storybook rides just don't have the Genie Pass available. So we actually purchased a 3-day hopper pass. And in case you're wondering what that is, that's basically you choose a park to start at, and then at 1 o'clock you can jump to the other park. So Tuesday we had to start our day in Disneyland and we could jump over to California Adventures at 1 o'clock. Then Wednesday it was the opposite of that. And then Thursday was Disney again first and California in the afternoon. So we had figured spending all day Tuesday at Disneyland, all day Wednesday at California Adventures, and then hopping back and forth on Thursday. What I realized halfway through Tuesday is that you can only use that Genie Plus one time per ride. So what we ended up doing is using it the first half of the day at Disneyland. Then we hopped over to California Adventures and used the Genie Plus for all the rides over there. Then on Wednesday, we started out in California, used all our Genie Plus on all the rides over there, and hopped over to Disneyland in the afternoon and used our Genie Plus over in Disneyland as well. And that way we got the most out of the Genie Plus that we paid for as we possibly could. One other thing you can take advantage of if you have older kids like we do is we made use of the single rider lane, especially on the Cars ride. The first time we did wait about an hour for all 4 of us to get on the same car. However, all of us wanted to do that ride again, but we did not want to wait another hour. So we hopped in the single rider lane and got to the front of the line within 10 minutes. So we would put my wife in line first, so she would be the first one off the ride when it was over, then the 2 kids, and then I would be last. And that way there was no way for us not to know where our kids were during this process. We did this about 3 or 4 times for the car ride, and 2 of those times we would even end up in the same car sometimes, or even in the same row after we switched with a couple other people while we were in line. So the other thing we took advantage of was the shuttle that ran from our hotel to the park and back. The first day we got out there a little late, so we actually didn't show up to the park till after 8 o'clock, so that was kind of a bummer. However, they started the shuttles at 7 o'clock in the morning, and when we got on that one, we were at the park at about 7:25, and that was perfect timing. The only other downside is when we left the park at 8 o'clock, we did have to wait a half an hour for the bus to get there one time. The other 2 nights, it was on time, and it worked very well. So that shuttle service ran every half an hour, so it started at 7, 7:30, 8, and so forth, and it stays running up until the park is closed. So this did cost us $64 for the 4 of us for 3 days. However, it's still a lot cheaper than paying for the parking at Disney, and the shuttle does drop you off right at your hotel and right at the beginning of the park. So that's going to wrap it up for me talking as far as this video goes, guys. Hopefully it gave you some good information and helped you out. If so, make sure you hit that like button and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. I'd really appreciate it. The whole concept of my channel is to give you guys the most information in the least amount of time as possible, so I don't waste your time. The rest of this video, guys, is going to be full video footage with audio of Star Wars Rise of the Resistance, Smuggler's Run, Cars the Ride, Pirates of the Caribbean, and The Little Mermaid. And I hope to see you next time. Have a good one. Later.
Systems check. Pneumatic actuators to full.
It's a prisoner transfer. Did it work? Good. Now get a move on. There's a clear path to the turbo lifts at the end of the hallway. Turn right. A probe droid. You're lucky it didn't spot you. Take those turbo lifts and stay out of trouble.
Hey, you're not authorized. Wait, those are the prisoners.
Your cover is blown. Find an alternate route. Who picked these two droids anyway?
Detection approach. Prisoners not seen on the
Fire!
Distant drops to force. Signal us down. Hurry!
No, not up! I said down! This does not look good. Try to find another way down to the escape pods.
The Resistance will attempt to rescue the prisoners.
They have neither the resources nor the courage to engage us.
You underestimate their conviction. Raise the shields!
Shields? I see no evidence.
Now!
Sound the alarm! All personnel to their stations!
Sir, the prisoners have escaped.
How brave, but ultimately hopeless. There's nowhere to run. There's no escape. You will tell me the location of the secret base, and then I will destroy you and the Resistance.
Came in a little off target. Ground crews will meet you outside the wreck.
All right, nice job, recruits. Not what you signed on for, but hey, you're Resistance now. I think I have that authority. Right, Beck?
After this part of Millennium Falcon Smuggler's Run, try and get in position to be one of the two pilots. One does the up and down, and one does the steering. You definitely have more control of those functions than you do as a gunner or the engineer. If you can't get into position to be a pilot, I would definitely be a gunner before being an engineer. And depending on how well you do at these functions, will somewhat determine the outcome of this ride.
Weapons are online. Left pilot, hit the booster. Now let's go get that glass out. Right pilot, make the jump to light speed. Yes, Chewie will pilot us in remotely. You retrieve 2 containers of coaxium. This will greatly help the Resistance. You have heard the First Order and made Chewie proud. Now, after my modest profit, your...
Just follow Mater into town to get ready. Mater! Coming, Sheriff! Howdy! Here for the big race, huh? It's gonna be fun! Hey, you ever go tractor tipping? It's easy. You sneak up on him and... Ready? Don't let time catch you. Huh?
Visitors on this planet.
Yippee! Welcome to race day.
In Radiator Springs.
A champion needs speed
And style.
Luigi, give our friend your best.
For you, my friend, only the best. Oh, yes. Look, wonderful tires. The tire's done. Now you look like a real race car. Guido, to the starting line.
It takes more than new tires to win a race. I'm your new crew chief.
I'll tell you when to pitch hard, getting into the groove. So pay attention. Do it.
Yes. Now you will have the chance to make this the most glorious race of your life. Who the first one is to do it first? The race is the ready and go on.
You need to look back. Ka-chow! Come
Visitors on this planet. Looking good. It's in there. All right. Good luck, man. Shiny paint don't win a race. Now get out there.
She's about to begin.
We're gonna do a race now, ready? After the fast, ready?
Going down, bro!
swim with baby jaws.
Don't tell him, Carlos. Don't be cheeky.
I am not chicken. I will not talk.
I will never aloft. Well, now, you swabbies, what may I offer for these hearty eggs? Every one of my glare. Hello there, you grilled rat.
Oh, quit your clucking. The gentlemen want the rum. Don't you, boys?
Key as well. What I wouldn't give to see the look on Captain Jack Sparrow's face when he hears down 'tis only me what's got the goods. Keep still. I'm studying me map. Oh, it's the treasure like I was every day.
All that blasted pocket-picking pirate. People build a nice keep blasted black-hearted.
Here you be, Spot. As a juicy man.
A toast to pirates and its many shining rewards. As a career, what have you got rewarded? Yo ho. I humbly accept this magnificent treasure as my reward for a life of villainy, larceny, skullduggery, and persnickety. Me.